Hello and good evening. Um, I just wanted to say a few things on video regarding some things on the news that I'm reading. And seeing as how I do believe in the NATO, whatever, looking at how China is and whatnot, and looking at the history of the Chinese, right? Anyone remember Eddie Izzard and the joke that he makes, "Little Red Cookbook, Little Red Cookbook"? All right, that's reference to something known as like the student's handbook, like the Little Red Handbook. Right? This was, from what I gathered, an excerpt on Mao Zedong's best quotes. This is where the empire is overthrown. So if you ever watch the like you can on YouTube, everything that I know is open source, and everything that I know is not top secret or anything. It's just what I can study, or like anyone can study, reading the news, or just remembering history and looking on Wikipedia, actually, Google and Wikipedia. So, we're in trouble. We are in trouble. If you go on YouTube and you ever watch, like especially 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017, 2018, China Victory Day parades, and also Russia Victory Day parades, because if you remember the Cold War between the Soviet Union, right, and NATO, what no one really remembers, and what I guess everyone has kind of like surpassed and just passed over, has been Xinhua, China. China's a very, 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 very ancient culture. They've gone through a lot of shit. But one thing that they've nailed, and one thing that I can actually historically, is they have nailed the ethnic cleansing, genocide game. Well, you could almost say it to a scientific way, or applied science, right? Looking at history, because observable effects, A plus B equals C, law of string reasoning, if you're going back into Chinese medicine, but also, and I hate to say this, torture, right? This is how, in looking at the medicine, or modern medicine, and its correlation to the Nazi war camps come from, especially like nuclear medicine and even hypothermia and whatnot, right? Like these absolutely horrible things, and then subsequent experiments afterwards and stuff like you could say that, well, science, knowledge is neither good nor evil, I suppose. But really, by in and of itself, it is neither good nor evil. It's what you use it for, right? Well, I guess scientific knowledge, you would say, right? When dealing with China, excuse me, and kind of looking at genocide or ethnic cleansing, all right, or even controlled participation. Let's just say it, authoritarianism, autocracy, even looking at social control, methods of control, and social engineering, right? Let's look at Lao Tzu and Confucius, right? Remember all those movies, right? Like China is all this how many thousands of people all doing like all at the same time, right? Like an entire culture of people. Right? An entire culture of people who at any minute would be like, oh, right? Um, like, what do you offer peace? Pacific Rim, actually, it's kind of neat. That whole area around the Pacific Rim, that whole loyalty, honor, I guess you could say the warrior spirit, I guess, right? The one that the British, unfortunately, and learned the hard way, as did the French, as Spanish, right? When it came to the Asians, right? And to the Americans as well, right? All respectively, right? But like with the British, notably one would be the River Kwai. And why? Because they didn't think. Like, look physically, right? Physically speaking, the British are these big, huge lads, right? Compared to the Japanese, and who can be quite slight. And yet, the discipline it takes to remain in full seiza, right? For hours on end, right? Waiting so that if you ever need, right, you can strike. And so that's where that comes into. But yes, imagine like an entire culture of people all like just chilling out and ready at any minute, able to it's funny. It's the first time I've ever seen myself do that. But like, yeah. What do you know of the nation? But yeah, there's a lot you can learn from Asia, and a lot you need to take in Asia. They have history, they are tough, scrappy people. And if we're not careful, we stand to learn lessons the hard way, and that's, I wouldn't say very recommendable. Looking at history, we are the product of our history, and those who do not learn the lessons of the past are doomed to repeat, doomed to repeat the mistakes. So, um, one thing definitely, looking at how China wrote the book, China wrote the Sun Tzu War. We need to implement the art of war as we can, and we cannot blame the Chinese for because they hacked us and blah blah. No, I'm sorry. Sun Tzu wrote some very very good points as to what it was that the Chinese did, and they went exactly by the fucking book. All right. Look at their history. Look at how much they've suffered at the hands of the Guaylo, right? The Gaiji, right? Kaya Guaylo Kaya Guaylo Chuchoy, right? Um, sorry. No offense, but like it's understanding why people say that, why people understanding the white guilt and understanding like how we ended up in this situation where we are now because of history, right? A lot of it comes down to colonialism. In short, if you go down to well, to slavery comes from Dum Diversas. Dum Diversas is a papal bull issued by Pope Nicholas V in 1452, right? And then it was altered after a few subsequent papal bulls. There are two intercaetera. Apparently, one was by Alexander Sextus, the Borgia Pope. There were that basically legalized slavery, right? And it was right after the Constantinople that was passed, when Constantinople became Istanbul. Right? Remember that the House of Osman has only recently fallen from the throne, so to speak, and Turkey has actually become Turkey under Ataturk, right? So, yeah, we're the product of our history, and all our generations, especially today, have short memories. Nations have long memories. Governments have long memories. And certain special interest parties potentially might have long memories, especially those who stand to gain from conflicts, right? With the threats today of especially hypersonic missiles and whatnot, and with rising water levels, Canada specifically needs to look at engineering and looking at large engineering works, but also into let's see, waterworks. Think on the Quebec, but also you're gonna have to start channeling the water. Water finds its lowest point, right? So. Control the watershed. Control the watershed, and as you channel it, start dredging. You want to dredge the lake, dredge your rivers, and dredge your waterways deeper, as well as build them up. And also, you could even put lateral hydro generation facilities instead of damming across the river. Move with the flow and not a gradient. You have a constant flow and gradient, and you can generate power that way as well. Works within cities. Green towers are also essential, and green walls in every apartment, in every building. Food independence is essential, especially if there is ever a crisis. If your people cannot grow food, they will actually cannibalize. They will cannibalize. I have been through a coup d'etat in Ecuador. It didn't get that bad, okay? But nowhere near. The fucker took off. Abdullah Bucaram. He gets into power. He makes a whole bunch of promises to the poorest people. You're going to get hydro, you're going to get food, you're going to get education, you're going to get medicine for the children, you're going to get hospitals. And as soon he wins by landslide, and then money starts disappearing from the national treasury right into somewhere. Yeah, and so that happens, right? And so that the people marched on the Capitol and took to the streets with like burning tires and Molotovs and machetes and signs and sticks and stones, lots and lots of stones, and they even took mattocks and you dig up the pavement and shit so you can throw it. Yeah, I wanted to go, and my parents were like, nope, you sit. Yeah, a manifestar con mi gente. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Right. And that's Latin America for you, right? La liberté. Qu'est-ce que c'est la liberté? Qu'est-ce que c'est l'amour pour la liberté? Sa passion. Hydro energy. Canada has 3 coasts. Hydro energy for Canada. You're letting money trickle right through your fingers, Canada. You're letting money trickle right through your fingers, as well as the latest technology, latest capability, not only in science and engineering, like a CERN in Canada. Like, look at the size of Canada, right? But also, you're looking at the greatest capability for actual defensive shield across Canada to keep our enemies away. Anything through, we could zap out of the skies, or detect from a long way away, or blast with railguns. Right, the technology is there, and we have that capability. Not only that, we can make submarines. Looking at the north and what it's going to take to guard that entire northern circle, especially area, that's a big Achilles heel. Bases as they are today, they could simply add on renewable energies as a rotating system. But hydro energy, if you're by the coast or by any body of water, is your best friend. Like tidal pool energy, if any body of water that is not actually flowing or have a tide, right? Tidal pool energy is your best friend as well. It just uses air pressure, and you could even use that underwater, for like underwater submarine pens. Like Canada, we gotta get creative, guard that north, because if we don't, looking at how few of us there are here in Canada, if we do not take this seriously, and if we do not put out drones in every capacity, if we do not like break the mold, Canada, this country is going to go tits up, and our enemies will take away chunks of us bit by bit. Look up on Google Maps, right? Just look on Google Maps and look at the north and think, does the Canadian military have what it needs in personnel, armaments, industry, research, funding, alright, to actually defend us by ourselves? We have to be able to do this by ourselves first and foremost, then we get by with our friends. Even if we get by with a little help from our friends to do that, but especially technology, and new circuits and software, and the kids being able to do what my generation being able to do what they can do with electronics, it's a much fix. But also looking at the incentive, China is not to fuck around with. That song by System of a Down, does anyone remember Tiananmen Square? Right? Why don't you ask the kids at Square was fashion the reason why they were there? That guy standing in front of not just one tank, but a multitude of T-70 tanks, right? Like, what the Chinese did to those students afterwards, and what has been going on to students by the left and the right. You have to understand this, right? It's best to be moderate, and you need to stay in the center, right? Between slightly left of center, between left of center and right of center, right? It's good to stay somewhere in the middle. But with drone technology and with software technology and just looking at what the enemy has out there, all of this information you can be found on YouTube and Wikipedia, such as Rheinmetall. Like, these are some cool things too, right? And Canada, we can do some amazing stuff powered with tidal energy that would keep us safe and provide, like, just think of all the wealth that Canada has in resources, in the ground, on the ground, just natural wealth, right? We're open, Canada, and that's not a good thing. You're full of openings. You are an opening, just the size of you, right? You are an Achilles heel in a way, and so we have to account. So you have the science and actually make something of yourselves without being a dick, I guess. When you think our song means, right? Okay, stand on guard for thee. In one way or another, you have to, or else it's going to disappear. Look at the Strategic Resources Acquisitions Program of China. This national interests. What are national interests? What are strategic interests? This phone, for example, which I'm talking to you with, all these minerals and whatnot, they come from somewhere. Those are national interests, in the name of commodity or in the name of military, right? Because when you think about it, the best of the nation needs to go towards the defense of the nation. No flag, no country. Remember Eddie Izzard. No army, no country. That's how you're going to back it up. And then you're going to back it up. And if your allies feel like backing you up, then you're fucked. And if you are capable of doing it yourselves, you don't do it. Especially looking at how much you have to lose, how much you have to lose, right? And not only just for yourselves, but actually for the planet. think of, take into consideration what this planet, this country, value, what this country's value is to the actual ecosystem of the planet itself. That Arctic Circle, that wind and passage animals travel through, especially the marine animals and the wild and the plankton, right? And the algae bloom and the salmon spawn. All these things are extremely important, right? Think of how important Canada is to the planet, to survive, to life on this planet, right? It's actually quite daunting when you take a minute to think of just how important this country is and what a big job that Canada actually has to keep this country safe, and what it takes to understand what all these ecosystems in Canada mean to the greater whole on this planet. Actually having such a major wind system that comes through Canada, right, across the north, and that goes down into the United States as well. Right? What is a Hadley cell? Look at what a Hadley cell is. Look at how Hadley cells, how they coincide together, and look at how the cycle of precipitation, condensation, and evaporation comes together. And then you add in the nuclear component, leaded gas. So you have to take these things into consideration, kind of, right? We all do. We all do. We all have a responsibility, and fossil fuels are limiting. Fossil fuels are limiting. You want a growth economy, biofuels are an option, but that's going to require fresh water. Desalination is that. Start learning how to desalinate, but also start learning how to use vertical and vertical and inshore or vertical aquariums for crustaceans, bivalve farming, and whatnot. You can like here in Canada with technology to bring in water and even make areas within indoor facilities, and we could farm tropical food, right? Canada, you have so much potential. You just nearly have to use your brain, actually use your brain. I love this country, and there's a lot of opportunity here, but unless we are actually to our own anthem, it's not going to last. But with drones and with new growth industry and hemp and bioplastics and algae and kelp and adding in these vertical farms, adding in desalination and learning how to make bioplastics and whatnot, we can switch up, we can continue pretty much with what we have now, or even improving even into flying vehicles, which would be a great thing. If Canada alone, if we could with all these facilities that have just shut down, we could either rebuild Canada's fleet or drone drone defense force, which would really aid actually, like especially around cities, swarm or whatnot, and even with medical, fire, and even transport of goods, right? Even people, right? Long city they fly under certain right, they're all controlled with the software and whatnot. No one can hack it. And within the city, and then outside of cities, you can either fly and then with biodiesel, with fuels, and even methane, we produce how much methane ourselves, right? Vertical farming is another one, using these fish farms and whatnot, desalinate it or separate the water and the the minerals from the fish effluents, you have fertilizer. Guano is also another one, with knowing how to control microclimates. And adding in flow and gradient plus microhydro systems, or even like on a larger scale, and I mean the possibilities are endless in Canada. But renewable energy is the future, and even for military, right? As well as vertical farming and even micro farming, microgreens, insects and guinea pig, and being able to grow vertical farms from vines and whatnot in even freight containers. With today's technology, it's extremely possible. There's so much work in Canada, and a lot of that work has to be put towards defense. If Canada were to invest in itself, invested in its own security, with the titanium that Canada has in Canada, we could build deterrent submarines, a deterrent submarine fleet. Looking at the north, and looking at the Canadian modus operandi of right? And remember, you ain't seen nothing, right? The penguins from Madagascar, right? But like that kind of idea, right? Reach out and touch face. That would work with Canada, and that is its own deterrent, because remember during World War II, Unterseekrieg, right? The sea wolves or the wolf packs. That in its own is its own deterrent, right? And up in the north, we absolutely need that Canada. We really need to step up. With hemp is historically the Navy's best friend. We could technically grow ships, or we could grow drones. We could grow around metal frames, like around like metal frames and whatnot. It's apparently harder than steel, and like the possibilities with our science today. Look at the peanut and its industrial use, and look at how good it is for the soil. But really, looking at vertical farming for the future, for the forefront of the future, learning how to bring in water, especially with Canada having 3 coastlines, and even bringing it inland and desalinating it, that are cleaning up the Great Lakes. Cleaning up the Great Lakes is a good idea, right? The possibilities for this country are endless. Even imagine a national maglev. Imagine upgrading the CP rail to a maglev train, and using superconductivity, you could use that maglev to actually to create a national grid, right? Think Germany. Think Germany during the Battle of Sedan, right? And Erich von Moltke, elder. Was very apparently for moving people around and whatnot. Communications were extremely important as well. And so it shows that the nervous system of the infrastructure of the nation is always first and foremost, especially because if it goes down, so look at the Gripen, if shit goes down, you need to be able to get things from A to B to C ASAP. The newest forefront would be probably to upgrade the CP rail, and then expand to superconductivity, tidal energy for cities along the coast, and to give and to project power at bases and up around in the north. Could help make that more possible, especially with railguns, law systems, and health systems. Cities on the lakes, like Toronto and Mississauga, could also make use of tidal pool energy. Same with Pickering, same with Whitby, Oshawa, Clarington, Port, all these cities along Cobourg, all these cities along Prince Edward, all these cities along the Great Lakes could actually use tidal pool energy. Now imagine if we were to clean up the lakes, extracting all the minerals in, or all the crap in the lakes. You can sell those minerals at cost. Right? Or you can sell that. Looking at Canada has an enormous potential for many types of renewable energy. Like Tesla said, there's energy everywhere. It's just a frequency. You have to simply figure out what's the frequency and tap into the frequency.